Alright, so in this video we're checking out the new Jumper T Pro. So this comes in 3 versions, at least on Banggood. So you can get the version with the radio itself. There's a version with the radio plus an external module. And this is their Nano external Express LRS module. And then there's a version that comes with the radio, the module, and the receiver. And this is a 2.4 gigahertz Express LRS receiver. So when you go and look at the different listings for what you can get, it comes in 3 different versions, and the prices are going to vary as well depending on which one you get. So if you get the version with the radio, the transmitter module, and the receiver, I think that's the most expensive. Right now, I think it's around $125, $126, something like that. I think the radio by itself is $100. So I know before you rush down in the comments and go all ballistic like everyone else on Facebook did about this radio not being an internal Express LRS version, they are in the process of developing that. And I'm not sure if that was in response to the comments on Facebook, basically crucifying them for making basically just a internal multi-protocol module version and not an internal Express LRS version. So maybe they were already in development with that, or they started that in response to the comments. I don't know. I do know that that version is on the way. I should be getting that as well. So if you're looking for the version with the internal Express LRS module, I don't have any details on what that is in terms of specifications. I think they're trying, well, I think there's some issues with getting that to work correctly and getting the proper firmware and all that with the Express LRS developers. I think that's also why the Zorro from Radiomaster is probably not going to be out until end of January is what I'm hearing for the internal Express LRS module. So I'll just leave it at that. I know you're still going to go down in the comments and crucify Jumper for not doing that first. You know, it is what it is. They have come out with their multi-protocol module version first, so at least they came out with it before Radiomaster. But yeah, this one comes with a nice little case, as you can see, and handle. And yeah, it's pretty nice. It's like a canvas feel here. And then this is what the module looks like. I'm not going to cover the module too much here in this video. It is, I think it's made by another company. It's called the A-Ion 2.4 gigahertz Nano. And so when you look at the packaging, it's A-Ion receiver and A-Ion transmitter. So I'm thinking that they're partnering with someone that's creating these modules. And this is based off of the version 2.0 firmware. It is forked off like BFPV and the Minmo, whatever. I don't know. It's not in the Express LRS configurator for updating this for your binding phrase. But again, I'm going to cover this one in more detail in a future video. It does come with the OLED screen and the button, of course, which is going to be fully supported in version 2.1. And then the receiver, it has like the smaller version of the UFL connector that comes on the R9 receivers. I think people won't like that, and this cable is pretty thin. It's not as thick as some of the other ones out there. The antenna itself is fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. But yeah, the receiver size and everything is, I think, the same as everyone else's, and does have the built-in Wi-Fi as well. But again, I'm not going to really cover that in too much detail. So in the box, you do get the manual. It's a quick start manual. It mostly covers stuff like what's in OpenTX and the menus and stuff like that. There's a few things that are kind of missing. I'll talk about that as I go through the video. But when you open up the case here, that's what it looks like. And there's this little Velcro piece that holds the radio down. And you can see this, you can hear this rattling around here. There's a piece of foam here that holds the radio in here, so it's not sliding around inside. But I don't like the gimbal protector. I mean, it's fine. I'm sure it'll do the job, but it's like, it just makes a rattling sound. I would have preferred some sort of a silicone or TPU printer, something like that, that wouldn't be making a lot of noise, but it is what it is. It'll do the job. It'll keep the gimbals protected. The gimbals are the same Hall sensor gimbals that are on the original T-Lite. And as far as I can tell, the pretty much look the same. So if you're wondering if there's any major difference, I can't really tell. Feels the same to me. The springs feel the same. As I have mentioned in my previous T-Lite videos, this is my daily driver radio, and the reason is because I like the gimbal so much, and I don't think that they've changed that. So it feels great to me. I know a lot of people have differing opinions about the way these gimbals feel. Of course, that's totally subjective, but for something in this price range, I think it's completely totally fine. Now, the plastic on here is completely different from the plastic that's on the T-Lite. So it's like this soft touch plastic. It's kind of it gets scratched and kind of peels off. I think that they didn't do a great job with that, but they've switched the plastic on this one. It's not going to come out on camera, but it's not soft touch. It's hard, but it has a little bit of a texture to it, and it's not going to come out on the camera. You can kind of see it there. It doesn't feel like amazing or anything like that, but it feels fine. It's solid. You don't hear any creaking or anything when you try and twist the radio. It feels like a solid build. Although if you squeeze really hard here at this joint, you can kind of push this in here. You can see it doesn't make any noise, but I'm not sure who's going to be holding their radio like this and squeezing in that particular spot. It's fine. But yeah, if you're holding it normally, like right here, it feels nice and solid in the hand. It's a good weight to it. It has two 18650 batteries in here in the handles. Yeah, I did attach this myself. This is an option. It's included in the box. It's for the it's a nano module bay, but you can see the pins are exposing, but it's not powered on because they did the correct power setup in this one with the 2S setup. So unlike the T-Lite, which was 1S and had all those issues, which you can go back and look at those videos if you want, they have fixed that. There's two 18650 batteries in here, and this is not powered on until you turn on the external module in the model. So if you're worried about that, there's also 3D printed parts or you can print. There are covers you can put on this. But yeah, this little module bay is an option. You don't have to put it on if you don't want, but it does come in the box with the 3 screws, as you can see, and there's a wire here and a plug in the back, so you don't have to open up the radio. I don't know if you had to do it for the T-Lite. I don't remember, but no need to open up the radio. You just plug it in, screw the 3 screws in, and then you can plug in your modules. And it does support crossfire up to 1 watt. It didn't seem like it was draining the battery terribly fast. But again, it depends on how far away you fly. So if you're flying on 1 watt and you're flying really far away on full power, it's going to drain the batteries, even though you have two 18650s in here. Still going to drain the batteries pretty fast. So you're still, in that situation, when you're doing long range, you're still going to want an external battery external power on your crossfire module, just because it's going to be draining your batteries very quickly. So there's a little bit of an air vent back here for cooling, so let some cool air in. I don't hear a fan inside there, so maybe they have this in there in the design for the Express LRS version when it comes out, because that's probably going to need some kind of a fan. These rubber grips back here are okay. They are basically, you peel them off and they cover the batteries. So let me just go ahead, and these don't come off that easily, and they don't go on very easily. So you have to get kind of like a flathead screwdriver or something and get this under here. And then once you get something under here and pull up, the cover comes off pretty easily. But getting your something under there, like a fingernail, is really difficult. And then it just comes with these little clips and stuff to hold it in place. And the battery I'm using a flat top battery. These are my Molicel 18650s, and they are positive at the top. There is markings right there. I don't know if there's you can't really see too well. Oh, there you go. Get some light in there. Positive at the top, negative at the bottom. I don't know if there's reverse polarity protection. I don't see anything documented, so just don't put it in backwards. I think that if there is no reverse polarity protection, if you put it in backwards, you're probably going to fry the radio. So make sure you know what's positive on your battery. And it doesn't seemed like when the T-Lite came out, you had to basically pull in these little tabs here so that the batteries don't rattle around. These seem to be much higher quality. These little battery tabs here, and there's no spring at the bottom either. It does go in fairly easily, and they do come out with a little bit of pressure, but not a whole lot. So, you know, if you don't have this cover on, I think if you just tap on it, okay, there it goes, it'll come out. But obviously with the cover on, so I have the cover on this side, you can kind of hear it rattling around a little bit in there. I have put the covers on and had the radio on and tried to get it to turn off, and it didn't do that. So if you're super worried about that, you can pull on these tabs out a little bit. Yeah, but I didn't experience any problems with the battery popping off and the power turning off. And then there's a little piece here in the grip that holds the battery in place. So if as long as these grip pieces are on correctly, I don't think you're going to have any issues. Anyway, moving on, comparing the T-Lite to the T Pro. Obviously the T Pro is a fair amount larger, as you can see, taller, but obviously with the collapsible antenna, the antenna doesn't stick out as much. This is one of the things I absolutely hated about the T-Lite, is this antenna thing sticking out all the time. In fact, I think mine is actually broken partially in the plastic part here. It still works, but it's because it gets knocked around. This thing kind of sticks out. And I haven't done any of the antenna mods to make it like a collapsible or shorter antenna. I haven't just gotten around to doing that. I do have this like silicone skin on my radio, if you were wondering about that. That's in a previous video. The handles are longer, obviously to accommodate the 650 batteries, which is fine because I do have a little bit better grip here for my fingers down on the bottom side here. So from holding the radio like this, I feel like I have a good grip down here on the bottom. That's a little bit nicer. But over here on top, it's just kind of a really different story. So I have my fingers here, my index finger here, next to this slider or the dial, and this is okay. I think I'm just gonna have to get used to it because it is a different feel ergonomically. It doesn't feel bad. I feel like, yeah, like if I hold it normally, I feel like I have full reach for everything, no problem. It doesn't hurt, but yeah, it's just a different feel. So these switches are different. So this and this here on the shoulder, these are momentary switches. It's a 2-position momentary switch, which I am not a fan of. I wish there was a way that it would maintain this, basically when you hit it, it would maintain the whatever position it's at, but it goes back to, you know, so for example, in the up position, if that's low and the down position is high, then it goes back to low when you release it. I don't know if there's a way to adjust that in OpenTX to change the way the momentary switch functions. If anyone is a magician in OpenTX knows how to do that, let me know, because I would like to use this out. I was considering using this as an arming switch, but I think it's going to require some sort of safety measures, because if your index finger is here and you're flying it around, you don't want to accidentally, you know, swipe up here and hit the switch here and disarm. I'm pretty sure there's probably a way to do this with some OpenTX magic where you can use like another switch over here, like this other momentary switch on this side. So hold this down, press and release, that'll arm, and then release. And then this doesn't do anything until you press and hold this down and then disarm like that. I'm thinking that could be a way to make these buttons useful in OpenTX, but I don't know how to do that. If anyone knows how to do that, let me know in the comments below, and I will make a video about that, because that's something that I would like to be able to do. Otherwise, I guess we're limited to these 3-position switches here for arming and modes. It's a little bit cumbersome to reach. You know, if you're holding it like this and you want to arm, it's kind of like you have to kind of go around like this, and it's a little bit harder to reach those buttons. you do have these 6 buttons here. So this acts as, each one of these is a switch. So I'm not sure how they have this programmed in OpenText, but basically right now this is switch 1, 2, 3, all the way to 6. And I'll demonstrate how it works. Basically, when you press it, the little light turns on, and then that's like basically the switch goes to high. And then if you press it again, the light goes off, and then the switch goes to low. And I'm thinking I might be able to use this as a arming switch if I can't use these momentary switches here. It's just really unfortunate that these are not that useful. So you could probably press that, and then it'll go into the arming position and then disarm like that. And then obviously you got the scroll wheel here. You got your menu buttons and your page forward, page back, and back buttons here. This is for navigation. Clearly they've ripped this off from the Tango 2. This is especially this one here, this whole scroll wheel. And of course, the Tango 2 stole its design from the X-Lite, and if you guys know who the X-Lite stole their design from, let me know down in the comments, because if you've been around that long, you're an old timer. But yeah, let me know if you guys know what the answer to that is. So you got your other functions here. You got your dials. There is a detent, a centering detent on these. I don't use dials at all, so I'm not sure why they added these for drone people. Maybe if you're an airplane pilot, these might be useful for like a head tracker, or maybe like a pan and tilt thing. Something like that would be useful for an airplane. USB-C here, and it does work for simulators. It is supposed to work for charging, and it does charge my radio when I plug it in. But when I plug in my power source in here, in the manual it says this green light should turn on while it's charging, and it'll turn off when it's done charging. What happens is when I plug it into a power source, let me just go and show you. So I'm going to plug in this power bank. See, the blue light there flashes, and the screen turns on and flashes, but then everything turns off. So I thought, that's weird. So I did just leave it plugged into the USB power source for a while to see if the charging circuit was working or not, and it does seem to be working, at least on mine. So the voltage, the overall voltage did go up, but the light doesn't seem to function like it's supposed to, at least according to the way it's described in the manual. So yeah, either that's there's something wrong with it, or that's just the way it's supposed to work, and they changed it in the manual, and in the description the manual is incorrect. You have your lanyard hook here. This is plastic. These are the trims. It's a 4D joystick for basically trims in both directions. So they have combined these trim buttons here, all these buttons here, right, left, up, down. So basically these 4 buttons are now combined into a joystick, which is great. This is going to be much better, but you can't press down on the joystick. It's not a 5D joystick, it's just a 4D joystick. Now the folding antenna here is kind of hilarious because 2.4 gigahertz, but they clearly just copied the Tango 2 antenna that folds up and down like this, which is supposed to be this large antenna here is supposed to be for 900 megahertz. I don't believe they have a 900 megahertz version of this coming out. Maybe and when they make the Express LRS version, that'll have fully utilize this design, and it doesn't rotate either. So they've copied the Tango 2 900 megahertz antenna, but it doesn't rotate. And yeah, you can see here there's a gap there. So obviously the whatever electronics they're using to make the antenna does go through this little piece here. I'm thinking someone's going to probably get creative and make some sort of a smaller 2.4 gigahertz only antenna. I haven't opened up the radio to look inside, see how that's actually put together. But yeah, if you guys want to see a teardown of this, let me know in the comments below. I'll make a separate video on that one. This video is already way too long. But yeah, it doesn't rotate. This is way too big for 2.4 gigahertz, and it's only, the multi-protocol module. All right, so we'll go ahead and turn this guy on. So one thing is, like, when I'm flying around and my fingers are here, if the antenna is collapsed, it gets in the way and it doesn't feel good. So once you push that up there, then everything feels great. They have the same size screen, 1.3 inches as on the T-Lite. So You can't really see that, but it just looks a lot better. I don't know if it's going to really come out on camera or not. It just looks a little bit better. I think the viewing angle is slightly better on the newer version, but it's the same 128 by 64 resolution LCD. So forgot to mention here, there's a little button here, and in the product page, they're calling this a bootloader button, but I don't seem to be able to do anything with that one. And then, of course, here's the trainer port for your trainer cable. If you want to get the radio to go into bootloader mode, it's the same procedure as other OpenTX radios. You take the two trims here, push them in like this, and just short press the power button. And you can see we're in the bootloader, and it is version 2.3.14. And then I wanted to show you how these switches work. So you can see there's a light on here. If you press it again, the light turns off. Press it again, the light turns on. So you can program these as different switches. So if you go into the model, so short press this button here to go in the model. And then this is the page button to page over. So I set up over here in the mixer. Yeah, see what you can do here. The mixer on this channel here, edit, and then you hit source. And I'm going to use this button here. So it comes up as switch 6, SW6. And then you go down here to where it says switch. It's flashing. So when the light's off, it's SW6 with the dash, which is like the middle position. And then with the light on, it's with the switch down. And I guess that would be the high position. So go ahead and put that in there. So if we go into the channel monitor here, you can see there on channel 5, you can use this as an arming switch by programming it that way. Okay, so I do want to show you a little bit of how this module works. I'm going to cover this in more detail in a later video, but first, I do want to see how this SD card slot works. It does not come with an SD card. I took the SD card out of my T-Lite, and this looks like it's going to be a little tricky getting this in here. Let's see, there's a little like indentation here in this plastic, so if you collapse the antenna down, you should be able to get this in here. Okay, yeah, so it goes in no problem. And yeah, it is kind of in an awkward spot, but I guess if you have the antenna collapse like that, you can slide the card in. Let's go ahead and turn this on and see what happens.
Welcome to OpenTX.
Okay, this is expected. I got an SD card warning. It's expecting version 2.3V0038. So I think what I've got on there is an older version. I think I have 2.3.13 on my T-Lite. So that should be pretty easy to fix. Just download whatever that version is from the OpenTX website. So I'm going to just hit the back button to get out of there. The voice files are on there. That works. Okay, so you can see I'm on model 1, which is using the internal module. The external module is powered off. So I create a second model here. I'm going to switch over to that and get the same SD card warning, but now the module will turn on. You see the OLED screen powering up. Got the little LED there and a button. And you can use this to control your different functions, packet rate, telemetry ratio, bind mode, update firmware, and TX power. I think if you press the button, then you can go into the actual menu and then adjust the power levels. This module will go up to 500 milliwatts max power. I'm just going to take it back down to 10. You can adjust your telemetry ratio. This is all pretty standard stuff. This is actually using the new 2.1 menu that's going to be coming up, but this isn't actually available yet. So somehow they have forked off their code for this module and incorporated the new code that supports these OLED screens in there. But it's not, I don't see the pull request and ExpressLRS configure it yet. So they obviously are working with the developers behind the scenes somehow to get this working. Whatever this company is that's working with Jumper. So I don't have any details on that, by the way. But let's see if I can get the 2.0 Lua script to control it. Okay, so to get into the radio setup, you long press this menu button. And all my Lua scripts are on here from the T-Lite. So this is the ExpressLRS 2.0 Lua script. Yeah, that works. So yeah, it's called A-Ion Nano. And you can see here you can also adjust your settings via the Lua script as well as the joystick. But you can see here it says version unknown, and that's the hash there, the ED5FC6. I don't know which version that corresponds to, but this is based off of the version 2.0 code. But yeah, I'm going to have another video later covering the module in more detail, because I can't flash this with my binding phrase. There's a way you can kind of backdoor the binding phrase. If you bind this, if you could put this into bind mode and then bind it to a board that has an ExpressLRS SPI receiver, you'll get the UID bytes, the hash for the whatever this transmitter ID is, and then you can put that into other like for example another all-in-one SPI receiver. And I think there's a way to reverse that. Not 100% sure about that one, but you could probably reverse that and then create that into basically turns into a binding phrase, and then put that into other receivers if you don't want to flash this. It's kind of a little trick. I don't think a lot of people know about that one, but you could do that if you want. But I think that's going to do it for this video. A lot more to come. Obviously, I need to use this a lot more, and you'll have more updates on this one down the road. But I'm going to use this for a while as my daily driver. I'm switching this over from the T-Lite to this one. Let you know some more about how battery life is like and whether or not I'm having any issues. So far, other than that weird thing about the charging light not turning on, I haven't run into anything else. Otherwise, everything seems to be working just fine. All right, it's a super long video. Sorry. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.